Page 539. To integrate oneself into the creational laws and recommendations in reality means nothing more than understanding their effects and acting through one's own decision and determination in free will. But this in turn means that you help yourselves, in which case this helping is based in your own decision to determine everything yourselves, to rule over everything, and thus to make the own free will, namely to the free will, exactly as it has to be. And that again is a crucial point, because if you follow this guidance, you will change everything for you, because you change inwardly first. Truly, you are thousands of millions of Earth humans, and as a huge mass, you actually want a better and good life. But as majority of your humankind, you let yourselves be deceived and guided into the unreal through false teachings of the religions, ideologies, and philosophies, far from any creational law and recommendation-based truth. Thus it is only natural that you do not know the creation-given laws and recommendations, and that you cannot follow them, through which you disturb the wheelwork of the happenings around you and your own destiny, and shatter many things that are good and valuable before they can even arise. And if you do not rightfully search, trembling and anxious, for the way of the truth in you, which is itself the truth and the culmination point, then you hesitate and fall back into your belief in your God, tin God, or idolized human being, through which you again bethink yourselves of the praying, begging, and beseeching to them, and submissively pay homage to them. But because you have already got involved with the truth to a certain degree, you no longer find a way back to the earlier kind of your belief, and waver between the world of the creational truth and the world of the religious, sectarian, ideological, or philosophical lie and guidance into the unreal. So you definitely do not find the truth, which could bring you help. If you then recognize your failure, you fall into despair, and go enraged over to the swearing and to the alleging accusation that there is neither any truthly truth and no effects of the creational laws and recommendations, nor, above all, any creation, if it lets such things happen. But in your rage, you forget that it is not the creation and not its laws and recommendations that are responsible for you, but only you all alone with your own free will, through which you determine and bring about all and everything that befalls you in terms of happenings and the destiny. And because you do not recognize, in all the things of your thoughts and feelings as well as in your general effects, and in all your actions and deeds, your own responsibility and your own free will, through which you conduct, decide, determine, form, create, and call into the life everything yourselves, so you also do not find the iron strength of the character and of all virtues in everything as is given through the creational laws and recommendations, nor do you recognize the might of your own decision and determination capability, and therewith of your free will, through which you can change everything to the good and best, and to the valueful and most valueful. Truly, this has been said to you again and again since time immemorial, through all true prophets, but you do not want to listen and to act correctly. You do not want to listen and act, but with childish defiance you demand fairness and forgiveness, even though you do not know who shall give them to you. And if you assume that the creation universal consciousness shall give you fairness and forgiveness, and you then intend to accept it in its greatness and truth, then you are on an evil, irrational way, because truly, you alone are responsible for the fairness and forgiveness, because in your life you yourselves must give them to you, since you alone are responsible for all and everything for which you need fairness and forgiveness. Consider, how and what should the creation do for you, according to your imaginations, you who demand fairness and forgiveness from it, given the fact that not the creation is responsible for your thoughts and feelings, for all your activity, as well as your actions and deeds, but you alone? Truly, you mock the creation, the universal consciousness, with your belief in a god, tin god, angel, devil, saint, or human being raised to a godly or other idol, and nevertheless you have the audacity to demand fairness and forgiveness from it. What a characterlessness and degradation! Most amongst you human beings of earth, you who are fools, in your always newly self-wanted blindness, imperiousness, boastfulness, and deafness, you run into your ruin, which, through your wrong and self-righteous behavior, you create in blind zeal to your own suffering. You increasingly and obstinately strive towards the wanting to know everything better, and let yourselves sink deeper and deeper into the deep, dark, and bottomless abyss of the truth unknowledge. Know and consider. Only by searching for the real truth in yourselves, and also finding the way of the truth in yourselves, which is the truth and the culmination point itself, can you come to your senses. Therefore, the darkness of the truth unknowledge itself shall be the beginning of the teaching for you, through which you find the truth. Consider that it can be that you perhaps find the way to the real truth of all truth too late, if there is not enough time for you to save you from an evil happening or destiny. Let yourselves finally recognize the truth in yourselves, so that you may also find the real truth of the creation and its laws and recommendations, so that you recognize it, experience, and live it, and can tear yourselves loose from the darkness of your truth unknowledge, and rise upwards to the light of the truth. Truly, it is high time for you to make yourselves free from your belief in a god, tin god, saint, angel, idolized human being, as well as from your belief in religions, sects, ideologies, and philosophies, and finally turn seriously, consciously, unrestrictedly, and neutrally to the effective truth of all truth, and work with it, and make it to your knowledge and to your wisdom. The wisdom is not as you human beings of earth in large numbers and as self-appointed wise ones show it, even though you are by no means wise. Wisdom only arises once you have, from out of your own inner cognition, made an effective fact your own, and therefore have made it to the living, uncoerced, incontrovertible, and irrefutable inner knowledge, out of which the essence proceeds as wisdom. Thus wisdom comes from out of yourselves, not however out of supposed words of a god, tin god, or human being raised to a godly idol, nor does it come through priests, angels, or saints, etc. True wisdom is an attestation of your own free will through which, if you consciously willingly strive for it, you can consciously live the becoming, the being, and the passing, and therewith also the truth, and in this wise can also perceive your thoughts, feelings, and spiritual fine sensitive feelings, through which your activity will in every respect turn into a joyful truth affirmation. And if in you human beings of earth the effective wisdom truly develops as essence out of the true knowledge, then you become quiet and do not talk much about it, because you have become a personality of wisdom. In the silent trust in your truthly knowledge and your equally true wisdom, which can also be called truth trust, with which you are in a solid and secure connection with the creational laws and recommendations, as well as with the energy of the being of the creation universal consciousness. And if true wisdom has grown up in you, you do not float about in illusions and fantasies, just as you also do not get into entrancement, do not fall into any belief, and do not fall into uncontrolled passions, as well as fanaticism. Going forth in true wisdom also means that you do not only live for the material, but also for the spiritual, as well as for the evolution of your consciousness. So you fulfill, once you have created true wisdom, your whole earthly work at all times with fresh courage and healthy senses. And once you have created true wisdom in you, use it as a weapon when you are attacked. Use your clear intellect and your clear rationality in fairness, responsibility, dignity, and righteousness. And even if you have awoken in true wisdom, you shall not be silent and indulgent if an unright is done to you, and you incur disadvantage therethrough, because if you remain silent, you support and strengthen the evil therewith. If your wisdom is great, and you recognize that the unright which is being done to you is to your benefit and advantage, then you shall remain silent and let the unright happen, so that the benefit and advantage to you arises out of it. You, many amongst you human beings of earth, who pretend to be knowing and wise with regard to the effective real truth of all truth, you are not firm in the knowledge and in the truth, because despite of your acceptance of the existence of the real truth, you fear the smile of the doubters and the God and tin God believers. You who pretend to be knowing and wise, but are not firm with regard to the real truth, you only simulate everything in order to shine with it, but truthfully the deep-reaching knowledge and the real wisdom are embarrassing and uncomfortable for you. You are pseudo-knowing ones and pseudo-wise ones, and you go about quietly and with a meaningless facial expression in order to skip over every conversation which brings up the true knowledge, the truth and the wisdom. Or else you become embarrassed because you do not know anything concerning the real truth, hence you keep making concessions according to the behavior of the doubters, believers, and inquirers, and tell them what they want to hear. But this is not knowledge, and not wisdom, but only falseness, hypocrisy, and conscious denial of the reality of the truth, because fundamentally you believe in an invented God, tin God, or idolized human being, of whom you cannot, in anxiety and fear, let go, and to whom you secretly pray, beseech, and beg, and expect from them everything good and the best for you. If you are halfway educated in the truth knowledge, and you nevertheless have wrong consideration for the truth doubters and the God and tin God believers, then you cannot excuse this by saying that their case of the belief is too holy and too serious to them for you to give them an understanding of the real truth and explain it to them, or that you do not want to be the butt of their derision. If you act like that, then that has nothing to do with modesty, but only with effective cowardice. The basic rule of the truth must always be that you shall always come out with it and show your knowledge, and that you stand up for the real truth. You must face every human being without fear, and indeed in dignity, and in the consciousness of how this is the due of the truth. Only then, if you openly and honestly stick to the real truth, will the doubters and believers be coerced to moderate themselves and stop making you the butt of their mockery, through which they betray their own insecurity. Therefore you shall not be fearful when you turn to the truth, follow it, talk about it, and give explanations. So be it that you do not show any fearful behavior when you have become truthfully in the true knowledge, and you have ripened in wisdom, because consider that once fearfulness has been born, it keeps nourishing itself from out of itself and becomes ever more evil and immense. And truly, you are very many amongst you human beings of earth who cheat yourselves, because you confound the term, quote, truth with the word, quote, belief, and have therewith given an entirely different meaning to the truth than what the truth really requires. Truly, the effective truth must be alive, and it is alive, and if you want to realize and comprehend it, you must make it to the certainty and therewith to the reality, action, and activity in yourselves. And once the truth has become the certainty, reality, action, and activity in you, it will pervade everything, your thoughts and feelings, your spiritual, fine sensitive feelings and emotions, as well as all your activity, actions, and deeds. The real truth of all truth must, from out of your inner, become visible in everything that belongs to you, and it must be unobtrusively perceptible and visible in you, as well as become an implicitness. And you must not hold the truth in front of you as a dummy nor as a shield, because the naturally radiating of your truth created in you must swing outwards and let everything become feelable and recognizable externally. Put simply, the true inner truth of all truth is an energy and power, which, radiating from your consciousness, interweaves your whole body and your blood, and which makes the truth itself and your life to an implicitness for you, through which nothing artificial and enforced can take over the rule in you any more, but only the real, actual life. Recognize yourselves still as believers, you who claim not to lead an artificial and enforced life, because, truthfully, with this it is not as you claim, just as it is also not as you say, that you absolutely believe in a continued life after the dying, but you do not know what that continued life is like. Even if you direct your thoughts and feelings upon it, you do not see it in a truthfully kind and wise, but merely through your religious, sectarian, ideological, or philosophical belief. And if you should ever have the opportunity to obtain a proof of your continued life after the dying and after the death, which goes beyond your material observation and perception possibilities, you would be frightened and shaken about the truth, because truly your continued life after the dying and the death is not the same personality, but in a completely new one, which has nothing in common with the present actual one. Only your spirit form remains the same because it alone is, as creational energy, integrated into the reincarnation, i.e., the rebirth, whereas your personality ceases to be in a becoming of neutral spiritual energy, out of which a new personality is built up, which will then be born. In the bottom of your truth unknowledge, you have no certainty with regard to the otherworldly life, in the death life, nor in the new life of the new actual personality when it is born into the new life. If you had the certainty of the true facts of the life, dying, death, and the rebirth, then everything would seem so natural to you as it really is. And this certainty would also be the proof of your continued life, which continuously occurs in another and new personality that is no longer identical with that of the former life. And if you have this certainty, then you will no longer be frightened, and in no wise shaken over the truth of these things of your continued life. Apart from these things of the rebirth, the life, the dying, and the death, there are very many and even innumerable processes in the life and death, as well as in everything existent of the creation and in its laws and recommendations, which you do not know nor comprehend, and which show with startling clarity how frighteningly unknowing you are with regard to the real truth of all truth, and with regard to the creation, its laws and recommendations, as well as its effects. Truly, the knowledge about all these things is no more living in you than the wisdom as essence of all knowledge, and the truth in itself. Something that you human beings of Earth know without exception is the procreation, the birth, the life, the dying, and the death. Each one of you lives in this certainty, but this is one of the few facts about which there is no unknowledge at all in you, and about which no strife can be kindled amongst you, except if you have fallen prey to a religious, sectarian, ideological, or philosophical delusion, and believe that you are immortal as material human beings. If you, as material human beings, do not live in an immortality delusion, then you must expect from childhood onwards that you will have to die sooner or later, but as a rule you ward off the thoughts and feelings thereon and push them away. And there are many amongst you who have a shyness to discuss the theme life, dying, and death, just as there are many amongst you who react very violently and indignantly if the subject comes up in your presence, or you are confronted with it directly. And you amongst you who are carefully concerned about not entering a cemetery, and who shun every funeral, you try to efface your impressions through thoughts and feelings concerning the death as quickly as you can whenever you are somehow, through foreordination or unavoidably, confronted with the grim reaper.